Welcome back to Brofessional Wrestling, the podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan A. Hacohen, and wait a minute, not Mason Rush, not Jax Williams.
No.
We've gone to a different side of wrestling. We got a lady in wrestling. We got the one and only Vanna Black. Vanna, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's nice to change things up around here a little bit.
It is, it's Brofessional Wrestling, right? So we got
Yeah.
the bros of wrestling. So you're one of our bros now, if that's okay.
But I feel like I'm always one of the bros. I'm one of the road buddies. I'm just one of the guys in the locker room sometimes.
So off air, we're talking before the show starts, and one of the first things I was going to ask you was, as of course you're dressed in black as Vanna Black.
Yeah.
Is your whole wardrobe black?
No, but I just find that usually suits me better.
It goes in the theme.
It does.
So first and foremost, does Vanna White have a beef with you?
We fight often.
Yeah, you got the angry text and everything.
Angry texts, DMs all the time. It's a big battle, but I feel like one day I'm going to outshine her. So
She's got a thing going, as far as turning the letters.
yeah.
Back in my day, Vanna, back when she started, she had to physically turn the letters.
It wasn't just a
Tap.
No.
No, they didn't have that kind of technology.
Oh, wow.
So they made it really, really easy on her. And not only does she have tap, she has to do the polite clap, right? That's apparently worth like $5 million a year.
I mean, like, she probably gets hurt less than I do, so.
You never know. maybe she's getting cuts off the tap.
Yeah, maybe. She gets electrocuted, you don't know.
So did you get a letter from Vanna White's people when you first came out in the world of pro wrestling? Miss Black, you are infringing on our client's copyright and trademark. Please cease and desist immediately.
I wish. I don't think anyone knew who I was when I first started, so they did not care.
That would have been a lot of fun.
That would have been.
So So I want you to live in my world for a moment, as far as in my mind.
Yeah.
Because you meet me, you haven't met me yet. It's our first time interacting. So I'll tell you how it kind of works. Because I go out to Hamilton Pro Wrestling, right?
Yeah.
You were injured at the time, and you're just recovering, and you're going to come back the following event.
Yep.
So to defend your riot belt at the time, and I hear the name Vanna Black, and I'm like, okay, so this chick, is watching Wheel of Fortune. She's all excited. She's a big Vanna White fan, and she goes, "When I grow up, I'm going to be a wrestler, and I'm going to be Vanna Black." True or false? That's how it went down with the name.
False. I know. It's heartbreaking. I feel bad for the fans that have had signs that have like the tiles of Wheel of Fortune and say "Go Vanna Black," and I'm like, oh, I don't have the heart to tell them, but it's not.
Did you watch Wheel of Fortune growing up?
I did. I was a big Wheel of Fortune fan, and it's funny when Vanna Black kind of came to be, I didn't even think of Vanna White. Didn't even cross my mind.
So how did Vanna come to be? You could share that, right?
We can share the story. Yeah, it comes up often. But I used to drive a minivan, and I thought it was so cool. I would call it the Vanna. Everyone thought I had a bunch of kids. It was like a very big hockey van. Like, let's put everyone in there. And it was just me. And the van died. And when I started wrestling, I was like, I want to play tribute to the van. So I used to call it the Vanna. So Vanna was born.
So the van was called the Vanna. Mm-hmm. What possessed you to drive a minivan at a young age?
That's what my parents gave me at that time. They got a new car and they're like, here's the van. This is yours. And I was very grateful. I was not going to complain for everything, but everyone that I started off wrestling with, they knew the Vanna. So they know the origin story because the parking lot at training would be the Vanna would be there. And then one day the Vanna was no more.
It's funny, and I'm thinking about this compared to Dom Mysterio, where Dom Mysterio comes on the air on WWE programming and talks about when he was still talking to his dad.
Yeah.
And talked about the fact that when he was growing up, his dad doesn't get him a Mercedes like all his other friends.
Yeah.
He got stuck with a BMW, and it wasn't even an M series.
No. It's tough life sometimes.
So he doesn't have his M BMW, and you're suffering with the Vanna.
I loved the Vanna though. There's no AC. It was like just getting by, but it was good. It was good to me.
All right, so I'm 0 for 1 so far. I'm going to redeem myself on the next one.
Okay.
So, Vanna Black in wrestling. I am picturing this a Bailey type scenario. So, Vanna comes out, and Vanna's in grade school, and she's attending every wrestling event and is in the WWE fan club and says, when I grew up, I'm going to be a wrestler. You knew this from early on. True or false?
100% true.
Yes.
Yeah, couldn't have said it any better, actually. It was from the very beginning. That's all I wanted to be. And I didn't think it was possible at all.
And did you at all watch Bailey's story and when she talks about herself as a fan and see yourself in it?
Yeah, I saw all those, especially for female wrestling. I very much like to see how they get into it and their story behind it, and hearing any, because you come across it a lot nowadays. Like someone's like, I got into it because my boyfriend started wrestling, or I was an athlete in something else. Whereas you hear the ones that are like, since I was a kid, that's all I wanted to do, and that's what I was.
So we're gonna kind of bounce around between our fans, as far as the ones in Ontario and the States and worldwide, getting to know Vanna Black, and as well, kind of your takes of how the wrestling world kind of works and where it's at and where it's going.
Yeah.
So a couple of things are popping into my head. So the first and foremost is, I got to tell you, I come to a Hamilton Pro Wrestling event, and I was at the last one, and okay, where's Vanna? Where's Vanna? Well, there ain't no Vanna because Vanna's in Edmonton this week. You are somewhere different seemingly every single week.
Yeah.
How does it work? Like, is the limo picking you up and the private jet's gassed and ready to go? Like, what kind of lifestyle? Are you living a Ric Flair life here?
I wish I can say that I was living that. The limo came up. I had fresh champagne waiting for me, but it was no sleep, energy drinks.
Woo energy.
It was bad. But yeah, I was upset I missed HBW because that show was the biggest. It was insane.
It was insane.
It was absolutely insane. But I just came back from Michigan. I was wrestling in, and then I went to Edmonton, and then straight to Calgary, and then took the red eye home. And I told the guys, like, it was a story of, I finished my match, I ran downstairs, put on sweatpants, and I ran right to the airport. I still had my makeup on. I was sweaty. I was disgusting going through security. It was a pretty cool lifestyle, but it's not as glamorous as everyone thinks.
Well, I think you've got the memo, because a few of us have heard the rumblings when it was coming, and now it's here. But we got TNA is back.
Yeah.
Total nonstop action, not whatever else people think TNA stands for. And it was TNA, became Impact, back to TNA, and now the show is called TNA Impact on TV. And pretty cool thing, because you wrestled with them not too long ago.
Yeah.
I don't usually swear, but holy
yeah.
Wow.
That was the dream come true. I said, if anything happens to me after this day, I'll be fine, because that was probably the best moment ever.
Walk me through it from the moment you found out about the match till the match itself. So first of all, how did you find out you're going to be on Impact?
I was doing work with them all that weekend. It's one of my big sayings is things happen for a reason, and the cards kind of came in line. I wasn't working that day. I was able to go there. I was able to help. They got to see me set up the ring. I was with Rip. And then Rip was like, "Oh, get in the ring. Let's
This
do
is
some
Trainer
stuff."
Rip Impact?
Trainer Rip Impact, yeah.
Hamilton Pro Wrestling.
We were just in the ring, like making sure it was all good to go. And they saw me wrestling with him, and they're like, "Oh, she actually can wrestle." And then we did some more stuff, and they're like, "Oh, she's actually good. Like, she's got something." So I did more work with them, and I remember I was there helping, and Iceman comes up to me, and he was like, "You're gonna talk to Gail Kim in about 5 minutes." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I'm like setting up chairs and doing all this.
Gail Kim.
Yeah. And I was like freaking out. So I go and I talk to them, and they're like, "Yeah, you got your gear, like get ready to go." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I had no idea what was going on. And they had a battle royal. There was a spot. They gave me an opportunity. And I remember texting the guys, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but like I'm backstage right now, and I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on, what's going to happen, what I'm trying to do my hair, it was just a mess, but it was every second of it. I remember I got one of the messages from one of the guys I train with, and he was like, "Just enjoy every second of it." And I stood in that ring, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is an Impact ring. This is literally what I've always wanted." And it was like people I've seen on TV. Lance Storm was there, and I was chatting with him and Gail, and I was like, I could not believe that the short time that I've been doing this, that this opportunity has come to me.
Is Lance Storm as boring as they say he is?
He's very hard to read, that's for sure.
He has a good poker face.
He's a good poker face. He kind of chuckled at my name, so I was like, I think we're good. That's how I took it.
No, whether it's a good reaction or a bad reaction.
I'll take a reaction.
Reaction. I think the worst thing in anything, whether it's professional sports, it's artistic, when you get no reaction whatsoever, that's the hard part.
We need a reaction.
Right?
So a slight giggle, and I was like, oh, we're good.
So now, how long did it take till you figured out it was a battle royal? Did they even? So they told you you're in, but they didn't tell you what match till the end, or
Jody actually told me. She came up to me. She's like, I am.
who's Jody?
Jody Threat.
Oh, okay.
The one and oh, great Ontario wrestler. She's with TNA.
Yes.
She came up to me and she was like, don't freak out, but we're doing a women's battle royal. And she was like, you're in it. And she could see my face kind of just want to throw up with nerves. And she was like, we'll be good. And I was like, okay. And then there's something that goes on in your head when you're enjoying it, you realize it, but you're turning to everyone. You're like, we're just regular people too. And you kind of get that sense of calm and you're like, I can do this. Like I can definitely hold my own with everyone. And knowing that a couple familiar faces was nice to have, but yeah, there's a sense of peace too.
We're just like everybody else, except we're better looking and more talented. But otherwise, we're the same as everybody.
Yeah, like all the other wrestlers next to you, you're just like, we all have different stories. Everyone comes from different areas, but we all have a common goal. So you can kind of see that in everyone.
Let's follow the progression here because you're in Hamilton Pro Wrestling. Then 1 minute you're in a battle royal in Impact.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet Jordynne Grace when you were there?
I didn't, but I have met her at a couple other tapings, but she was not there that show.
But you have met her before. She's one person I kept an eye on for a while because she is jacked.
Yup.
Holy moly, she is like the female Hulk. She can kill anybody out there at any point. Is she like that muscular?
Yeah,
that
in
jacked real life?
person, she's shorter than I thought she was going to be.
Was she 4'9"?
No, she's taller than me. Okay. But so anyone's a giant next to me, but
4'11".
she definitely, she's absolutely in insane shape. And I look at that and I was like, yeah, that's a wrestler.
So I remember Jordynne Grace not that long ago breaking into the business in Impact.
Yeah.
Maybe 5,000, 10,000 followers on social media. This is the same Jordynne Grace, by the way, in 2024 that was in the Royal Rumble in WWE. And did quite well for herself.
Yeah.
I heard the interview with her afterwards, and she said, I didn't think anybody was going to react. I didn't think they knew who the hell I was. And guess what? People popped for her, and she didn't just hold her own. Like, she looked great out there.
And it's one of those things, too, where some of us, we always doubt a little bit, especially going to a new area or a new promotion of some sort. You're like, I don't know if anyone's going to react to me. Where I feel comfortable and I'm at home, yeah, I know I can get a crowd's reaction and they know me, but going anywhere else, and it's one of those things like wrestling fans pay attention. They know what's going on everywhere. So it doesn't matter where you go. They might not be cheering for you, but they know who you are. Eyes are everywhere. And she and a great reaction as she should. I think that's what happened.
I think, in my opinion, first of all, the women's rumble was way better than the men's rumble.
Yes.
I think
everyone
way better.
Agrees on that too.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
And I think she was one of the strongest of the bunch. I think she looked great out there. She really, really fit. And Triple H talked about her afterwards and talked about how impressed he was with her. And you can see the writing on the wall. You can see she is headed. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And imagine her and Jade Cargill one day in the ring. Like, yes, please. I would sign up for that in a second.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. You can see when two people stand next to each other, like that's going to be good.
So here you are doing a couple tapings, getting to meet Jordynne Grace. Then you're in the Battle Royal for Impact. Then you see Jordynne Grace in the Royal Rumble. You got reading the tea leaves and saying, I can see the progression here. When you saw her in the ring, did you say to yourself a little bit, that's going to be me one day?
A little bit, yeah. I can't lie. I'm not gonna try to push that off, but it's definitely when you get a taste of something and you feel like, oh, I can do this. You see something else, you're like, I can do that as well. So seeing someone that you kind of admire and see those steps do that, you're also like, I can follow those footsteps. I can maybe get there one day. And it's just like my dream was to get on Impact at the time. I was like, I just want 2 seconds on it. Just 2 seconds. I'll be a jobber. I'll be whatever. And it was funny enough. It was a month later. That's when the Battle Royal happened. And then I was like, that actually came true. And I actually did it. So now it's like those little moments where you're like, that's all I want. And then you actually accomplish it. You're like, no, I want a little bit more. Like I can do it. And she sets a good example for that.
And I think a lot of it, look, even if you know how to talk, even if you have the right look, even if you have the right talent, it's like you said, it's being in the right place at the right time.
It's a big factor. Yeah.
And for many people, I think in any industry, this is for worldwide, for people thinking about whatever they do for a living. Sometimes you only get the one crack, that one shot, that one lottery ticket. And are you available right this second?
Yeah.
And if you ho-hum about it or let me call you back in 30 minutes,
You're gone.
they moved on already to the next person.
It's sad. It's true. Everyone's replaceable. Like you may have that spark, you may have that talent, you may have that it factor. But at the end of the day, if you can't make something, they're just going to fill your position up. I've gotten some of my opportunities when I was in Winnipeg wrestling. That was because someone dropped out and they needed a girl. And they're like, we'll just change the tickets. You're available. Let's go. So it's as sad as it is. It's right place at the right time, but it's for a reason. I really believe that.
Do I say it as girls wrestling, women wrestling, ladies wrestling? What is the correct?
I say women's wrestling. Some people say female wrestling. I don't get offended. It's
some do.
still,
some
I
don't.
say wrestling to be honest too. It's just kind of how it is. It's because I've done mixed gender. I've done female only. Like it's kind of just toss me whatever you want.
So I'm watching an interview with Chelsea Green the other day. Okay, love Chelsea Green out there. I think she's got a good look to her. I like her shtick as far as the annoying whatever, and it works for her clearly. And this is where she's been a tag team champion. She's on SmackDown every single week. And I found it very interesting, her take on women's wrestling, because I agree with her. And she's being honest with herself. Some people delude themselves into thinking that they're above where they're at or where they're supposed to be at.
No, you have to be very honest with what's going on. Yeah.
She said, I came late into the picture. If I would be in my ideal world, I would be in the Divas era.
Yeah.
I would have been perfect for the Divas era, where catfighting and wrestling in mud, and that would be all about me because, look, I'm not going to be out there as the champ.
No.
I'm not pretending to be more than I am, and I'm more play fighting out there, but I got that kind of look. And I thought to myself, interesting, and it's kind of funny because we've swung away completely from that Divas era, right? And everything is supposed to be exactly on the straight and narrow as far as evenness. What did you think of the Divas era in WWE? Do you look back on it fondly, not fondly? How do you feel about it?
I was pretty young when it was kind of at that peak of they were just like mud wrestling, bikinis and all that stuff. And I wasn't gravitating towards that at all. I wanted to watch the guys. I wanted to see a fight. That's just my personality. So how it's come this way, the women's wrestling has come so far, the opportunities, the work that they've had to do, the history behind it all, like it is a lot. And you realize it even more once you're in it, where it's like, oh, it wasn't like that before. But I feel like each person's different. You got to be honest. Some people, like even now, they just like to come out and do that fun gimmick. They want to dress a little scandalous even and feel good about whatever feels good about them, do it.
Yeah.
Me, myself, I want to fight. That's what I'm in for. So when Chelsea was saying that of how she was like, oh, the Divas era and all that, I was like, I totally respect that that's what she sees herself doing, but that's just not me. It's like the same thing about like some people in comedy wrestling, like they love that and that's perfect for them, but I want to fight. I want to win. That's Vanna Black.
When I first saw you walk to the ring, the first time I watched you wrestle, I said to myself, I sat with my buddy next to me and I said, yeah, I could beat her in arm wrestling. Like, yeah, okay, good luck. Like, you look like you're like out. And then I saw what you did out there, and I said, oh shit, she could kick my ass in 2 seconds. Where did that toughness come from? What was your like training before wrestling? Like, how, or were you just born with that toughness?
I was going to say I was born with it, but I've always played, like I played soccer growing up. I played hockey. And then when I got older, I got into CrossFit. So that's how I really started building my muscle. And that's how I got that kind of training perspective that really helped me for wrestling as well. But I've always liked something physical. I've always been that way. And I was always the attitude of like, don't underestimate me. Being small, being short, being a female also, like you get underestimated a lot. And I was just, it was not going to happen for me.
What position were you in hockey?
I was left defense.
Defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always played defense in soccer too. It was always defense.
Well, there you go. There's the fighting.
Yeah. Like,
and all
don't get
that.
past me. It's kind of the mentality.
Now, sitting beside my championship belt there, does it make you miss the Riot belt?
A little bit, but you know, I got another belt, a purple one too from Fredericton. So kind of making my ways through. But no, the Riot belt was my first championship
This
belt.
is HPW.
HPW Riot
Hamilton
champion.
Pro Wrestling, right? What is a Riot champion? Like
It's defended in multi-man matches. So it was the first one of that. So I was doing triple threats, fatal four-ways, all that. And it was my first belt, and it was the first Riot champion. So
congratulations.
place that for me. But yeah, that was, I think the day that happened was when I realized like, oh, this is for me. Like there was never a doubt, but I was like, I really enjoy this. I have something, but I'm not the top yet, or I'm training with a lot of these guys that are way taller than me and more athletic than me, and I'm not really getting female matches. I don't know what else my competition is. And then I had that belt, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the road to the beginning.
So I gotta ask you next, because this one I'm just not sure about, and it doesn't make sense to me. So I'm trying to walk through the mentality. I have option A, option B.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand in this day and age, especially in the indies, what is the deal with intergender wrestling? Is it because that's actually a thing, or because there's not enough quality women's wrestlers to fight against each other? What's the angle with it? And I say that respectfully, of course.
It's just a thing. Like it
is a thing.
Yeah, it is. And I quite enjoy doing intergender wrestling.
Yeah.
But it has to be done right. And it's an art to it as well, is like I like to explain it. And I've had all my matches in HBW in Hamilton have been intergender, and they're matches. Like the guys aren't backing down, and neither I am, but we're actually fighting to win something, but there's an art to it. No one's just going up and just straight up punching me in the face. Like that's not happening, nor would I let them. Mm-hmm. I'm scrappy, I'm small. We're playing cat and mouse here. You got to come get me if you want to win. And that's how every match is usually gone too.
When you're saying this, I miss the days of China. And China having the Intercontinental belt.
Yeah.
And facing dudes and being in the men's Royal Rumble. And we're not seeing as much intergender anymore in WWE and other mainstream. Why do you think that is?
It's an audience thing too. It's very much some promotions I go to, they will not do intergender wrestling, and I respect that completely. The fans don't want it. The audience doesn't want it. And at the end of the day, it's what the fans want. Like we're the product that they want. So if they don't want intergender, there's not going to be intergender. Other places love it. So it's kind of like a hit or miss, but yeah, I'm not opposed. I like intergender wrestling. I have fun. I also train with guys. Okay. That's how I started. I didn't wrestle a female until I think my first year into wrestling. So I didn't even lock up with a girl for a year. It was just guys.
What's your take on hardcore matches? When you see the ones where they have broken beer bottle, nails.
I don't think that's for me.
We're not that hardcore yet.
We're not that hardcore yet. So, but.
Okay, I can kind of get the intergender part a bit. Do you get the hardcore ones? Like, why is that? Do you know what that's a thing? Because I still, as a wrestling fan, and I've been in this for close to 40 years, I still don't get it.
I think there's a certain level of you're putting your body through something, whether someone thinks you're insane or not, you got to respect that. Like that takes effort, that takes work, that takes a kind of like, I don't give a crap what people are thinking or saying about me. This is what I enjoy doing, and it's fun for me and it's enjoyable. So people who do hardcore matches like that, good on them, because I could never do that. I don't ever want a staple to be in my forehead. I don't want glass to be in my eye. I'm freaked out that my contact's going to fall out. Like, I don't want any of that to go on. But people love it, and that's their thing, and that's what they enjoy, and go for it. I say in wrestling, there's so much. There's different styles. There's lucha, there's British style wrestling, there's Japanese, there's North American, there's hardcore, there's intergender that you can then even branch off into. And everyone has their own take on it, and everyone kind of has their own little niche, and there's an audience for everything.
Even I remember at the last event, Bruiser Battersby is in a steel cage match for the main event. And he's climbing up, not just the top rope, but the top of the cage.
Yeah.
And his head is almost hitting the ceiling. He's judging it. I'm right there in the front row, and I'm like, there's no way he's going to do this. So he does a backwards flip off the top of the cage. Somehow he lands. People have to understand, like, they're saying wrestling is fake. I'm sorry, folks.
It's not.
That's
it's
real.
Yeah.
When you're wrestling in the indies as well, and I've been to enough events out there, you're falling off the top rope onto the outside. You're not falling onto beautiful, nice padding. You're falling onto straight concrete.
It hurts. It's not it's not what everyone thinks it's going to be. It's not a cloud. It's not like you're never going to get hurt. The injuries I've had are just little things, but like it happens. It's not flawless, as they say.
Did you ever have that bleeding moment? In a match where something cracked open and it just...
I've had a bloody nose.
Okay.
And I even remember too, it was one match. Things were going okay. And then all of a sudden the girl came off the top rope. She did a cannonball and her foot hit me in the nose. My nose is bleeding. Then the other girl came up to me. We're fighting. I got punched right in the face as well. So I have a black eye, bloody nose. I break up a pin. My nail rips back. My nail's bleeding. It falls off. And you can see in the footage too, it's just that pure raw like rage is coming on. And I was like, yeah, that's wrestling. I didn't stop. I didn't roll out. I didn't say the match is done. I didn't want to do it. I was like, oh, we're getting this done now. Now I'm pissed. So it's kind of gives you, I can see maybe why people do hardcore matches actually.
You're starting to get fired up.
I might do hardcore matches. This might be the change after this.
So now I got to ask you, I had Jax Williams on in the previous week and you know him pretty well, right?
Yes. I call him my wrestling best friend.
There you go. Your wrestling best friend in life. So now for yourself, I'm going to ask you what I asked him. When the calendar turned over into 2024 in January and Vanna Black's looking at her calendar and she's seeing the year coming up, I can see, watching you on social media, seeing how you do things, I said to myself, I'm going to like this person a lot because I can see she's very type A. She knows her brand. She knows what she's doing. Everything's calculated. I love that because it lessens the risk and it means more likely for productivity and for goals. So now I'm really excited to hear when you're going into 2024, what goals did you set for yourself in the world of wrestling?
Right. Beginning of the year, I said I wanted to start making my way through Canada more. I've done out east. I hadn't done out west. And as we spoke about earlier, I finally got to Alberta. So I'm starting to make my way through the country. So definitely hitting like Vancouver and all that's on the plan. Going to the UK would be on the list. And then I don't think it's in 2024, but that TNA little taste again, that's definitely in the next few years for me.
I presume you pretty much message them every week. Hey, if you need the ring set up or something, I'm here.
No, I'm very much, you have to be there for the opportunities and you have to be present and you have to show your face, but you got to work, you got to prove yourself, and then they'll see it. If you're good enough and you have kind of all the factors that they're looking for, right place, right time, it's going to come there.
I am so insane that if I did what you did and were in that battle royal, I would have just kept showing up every week and playing stupid and saying, yeah, I was here last week. Don't you remember me? And I would just keep hanging around and eventually somebody's going to get injured. Somebody's not going to show up. but maybe it's called stalking. But
yeah, I don't want to stalk anyone. That's not on the list of 2024, the goals, but definitely like I don't plan to go anywhere. And I like to say, I think just keep wrestling and keeping my face out there and training every week, all the time. I'm going to prove myself. So
she's Vanna Black. She's pretty awesome. She travels the globe. She sees wrestling from everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah.
And I got to say, you've been so engaging with your fans as well. I see you're very active on social media. So I definitely encourage people to follow you on social media, Vanna Black, and send forward the questions. As we're ending today's episode, you've been so engaging, by the way, I could talk to you for 3 more hours.
I'm a chatterbox. That's why the guys ride with me usually. She'll talk the whole time and 8 hours will go by. So,
well, we're going to have you back in future episodes because we're going to bring some of your crew from Hamilton Pro Wrestling, and we'll see if you feel the same way when we bring up those questions. But I'm going to finish off today in Fire Point 3 questions. Number 1, first match. Do you recall it?
Yep. It was December 2021. Against Jordynne Ringler.
Jordynne Ringler.
The Jordynne Ringler. It was 1 month after I thought I broke my back. And it was the best debut ever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Your favorite match ever so far in the world of wrestling? Do you recall it? The one that really sticks out, you said, man, I either nailed this or just had the best high or...
Bia and I would say. We've wrestled a handful of times, but we recently had a match and it just felt like effortless flow of just, we killed it. We killed each other, but we killed it. It was probably my favorite match.
She's pretty intense, eh?
Oh, yeah. Guys complain a lot about hurting each other. I was like, have you wrestled Bia?
Mrs. Bruiser, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she is hardcore to the max. See, her, I could see nails, anything, glass, just in her house when she wakes up in the morning and walks through it. Like she's
Bia's great, but yeah, she's a fighter. So
Last but not least, I went on one of the leading websites for wrestling, Scumbags of Wrestling, and you're prominently featured there. So that's a big,
good thing.
It's a huge honor to be a scumbag in wrestling.
Yeah.
And they claimed there that you said that Charlotte Flair is your top wrestler.
Yeah, still is.
Interesting. Because I would have for sure thought Bailey, AJ Lee in that round.
No.
Why Charlotte Flair?
I just was drawn to her. I really am drawn to an aesthetic that I don't have. So height, long limbs. I was like, I wish I could have that, which I don't.
Yes.
But I would watch Charlotte Flair's matches, and she would walk out looking like a god, a princess, just amazing. So well done. And she would leave that match, her hair a mess, her makeup everywhere, looking like she went through war. And I watched that every single time, and I was like, that's what I want, and I want to have a match with her. I want to go out there looking the best and leaving like I just went through a battle.
I don't want to deflate you, but if her name was Charlotte Smith, do you think she'd be in the same boat as she is today?
Absolutely. She speaks for, she doesn't need her dad's name.
Let's say it maybe got her the interview or opened a door, but I think at this point in time,
you have to prove yourself. That's a big thing, and you might get an opportunity from the name, but.
And I gotta say, her husband Andrade, he went to AEW, came back to WWE. He's pretty badass himself. There's a lot flowing through that household as far as wrestling talent goes, and she's one of the best for a reason. So interesting choice. I love it actually. So. Anybody who watches wrestling and you hear the music and she comes out as the queen and so majestic, it definitely gets something to shoot for, whether man or woman. This is Vanna Black, Hamilton Pro Wrestling, Worldwide Wrestling. You'll be back on in a future week, and we're going to talk some more wrestling on Brofessional Wrestling, the podcast.